Hi, my name is Cassandra Bill. I'm mental health awareness ambassador. Uh, I grew up, I had a normal childhood. I grew up in a normal family, like most of you. I went to a normal school. During my adulthood, when I was 26 years old, I was out playing or having fun with friends on a motorcycle. That's when I was involved in a motorcycle accident that claimed my foot. I lost my foot on the spot, so I was rushed to the hospital to try and salvage the situation. But by the time we got to the hospital, the doctors told me that because of the nature of how it detached, it couldn't be put back. It was so much for me to bear, especially now that I was actually just getting into the motorcycle racing, and there was so much expectation coming from the people around me. People were cheering me on. People were like, "You're very good at this." So picturing all this going down the drain was just too much for me to bear. I couldn't deal with it at that point when I was told. I started crying. I started screaming because of the pain that I was going through. Um, I was taken in for surgery, first surgery, second surgery. Then after 2 weeks of hospital time, I was discharged. I went home. Getting home was the most traumatizing thing for me. Why? Because when I left the house going for the motorcycle competition, I left everything just the way I wanted it. I left my house in order, just the way I arranged it. But coming back, everything had been disarranged or probably moved around. Why? Because when I lost my foot, I couldn't walk. So I was on my wheelchair all the time. So they had to actually put rails all over the house so that they could assist me in terms of support when I needed to stand or hold on to something while I'm moving on the wheelchair. So looking at the rails in the house and looking at the fact that actually they actually improvised a place in the living room where I could help myself. Why? Because the wheelchair was not wide enough for me to go to the washroom and transport myself to the sitting area. So I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the strength to actually get myself to the washroom the first place. So they designed something in the living room that I could help myself. So I felt kind of like my privacy had been violated here. Like I'm one person who doesn't have a private life anymore. Why? Because the washrooms are one of the private places in the world. But the fact that for me, I had to help myself there in the living room, just it made me go through so much emotional breakdown. I started feeling like a burden to the people around me. I started isolating myself, especially to the family and the friends who came to visit me. Conversations were no longer interesting. Why? Because the people around me never knew what to tell me. I didn't know what to talk to them about, because even if somebody is going through so much pain, no matter how funny the joke is to them, it's not funny to you. So as much as I could have a conversation with them, they couldn't reciprocate, because there was just an emotional disconnect between the two of us, between me and the people around me. It was too much. I gained too much weight, from 80 kilograms to around 114 kilograms on a wheelchair. I kept feeling tired every day. There was no energy to actually leave my bedroom to just go to the living room. I felt like I was a burden to everybody who came around just to check up on me. Everything that I enjoyed, even watching TV, the series and the programs, the movies that I used to enjoy watching, were no longer fun. I didn't want to sit in front of the TV. Why? Because it felt like I was straining to actually do something that I would do with ease. There was pain involved, because after my surgery, I had pain, so they gave me painkillers to take home. I used to take the painkillers, but they never worked. So I was in constant pain on a daily basis, feeling uncomfortable. Every time you tell somebody who's next to you that I'm feeling pain, they just tell you you'll be fine. They just tell you, okay, we'll talk to the doctor next time you're going for the checkup. That was the scenario in my case. I felt like I had disconnected with the whole world. Like nobody would understand what I was going through, and nobody would share with me what I was going through. With this pile up of stressors at home, just the fact that I can't go to the kitchen to probably get my favorite meal, I can't feed myself. My right arm was actually damaged. I couldn't sign a check. I couldn't go back to work. I couldn't do anything. I was helpless. So there was just so much stressors around me, and the fact that I was actually spending the money that I had worked so hard for over a period of time, and I was not making any. Being a man, your expenditures are just piling up. There is medication is needed on a weekly basis. I was going to the hospital every other day for checkup, physiotherapy involved. I used to be a very fun, exciting, and very athletic guy before my accident. But actually, just going for physiotherapy was just too much for me. It's something that I resented. I just had to have like a whole conversation with myself before I did so. So everything just crashed on me. Everything that I had before the accident was all gone. I just had myself. I couldn't do much. I was helpless, I would say. This got me into depression. And people used to tell me, you need to talk to somebody. You need to talk to somebody. They used to tell me you need to talk to somebody, but they never told me why I need to talk to somebody and who do I need to talk to. So it's the more they kept encouraging me to talk to somebody, the more I got frustrated. Why? Because I really didn't understand. The language there was a disconnect. They're telling me something I can't relate to, I can't understand. So the best thing that ever happened to me that actually shifted all this is just the fact that one day I decided, as a man with all the baggage, with all the emotion pile up that I was going through, I just needed to talk to somebody. I looked around my family to whoever I can talk to. I couldn't talk to my girlfriend because she had certain expectations from me. She didn't understand the language. She didn't know what I was going through. I couldn't talk to my father. He was one of the stressed men I've ever seen. My mom crying every day. My sisters, they had no answers. I was like, probably this is something that needs attention. So I went online, read about what I was going through, and one of the line that came into my mind was like, depression was the main cause of people living with disability. Is actually the main cause of disability. Then the fact that I felt very, very low kinda drew attention to that word depression. Then I was like, if somebody is depressed, where do I go? At that time, I didn't know I was depressed, but I acted in fear of, I do not want to end up going down that road. So I went online, looked for a psychiatrist in the UK, engaged them. They asked me to fill a form. I gave them all the information they need. And then that was the road back to who I am right now. Just the fact that I took a personal responsibility to reach out to somebody. For me, expectations would be probably I would talk to my girlfriend or probably talk to the people around me, my brothers, my friends, but I didn't. They had too much expectation from me. They didn't speak a language I understood. Nobody told me that it's okay for me to go through whatever I was going through. So I had to look for help somewhere else. And whoever I talked to was very, very supportive. He made me understand, first thing, that I'm going through a certain emotion, because of a certain thing, and it's normal and it's totally okay not to be okay. That was a relief for me. I sat down, I was like, at least this is somebody who I can talk to. Why? Because he understands what I'm going through. So I even became more excited about the whole thing. I looked forward for the sessions. Every day I wanted to share more. I wanted to try something out and give him feedback. But often enough, there was relapse. There are moments I felt like I didn't want to go back to the online platform anymore. I didn't want to talk to him. There are certain sessions that I skipped. But I kept reminding myself that as much as I'm going through so much, I needed to talk to somebody. So that kind of gravitated me back to the help that I was getting from him. And it was just through that. You know, one thing with depression, it lies to us. It tells us things that are not true, and we often enough believe. So I kept encouraging myself to actually open my eyes to the reality. I could think about it, but it never made sense. So I used to go back to him and actually ask him, why am I going through this, and why am I feeling in a certain way? So over a period of time, we connected and we created a bond that really, really helped me and facilitated my healing process. I got to a point where I could smile again. I could look forward for that breakfast in the morning. I could look and probably laugh to the jokes that people are cracking around me. I felt like life that had been taken away from me had been given back to me. It was the most precious thing that I've ever come across in my whole life. Why? Just because I reached out. Just because I reached out. I know there's so many men like me who are suffering. They've been suffering in this demon for a long time. They've never found somebody to talk to. They've never reached out. I encourage you guys to just come out and share your story. You don't have to share it with the person next to you. Talk to somebody you feel comfortable talking to. Talk about it. They will help you. If they can't help you, they will point you towards the right direction. So the first step towards actually getting better is just you talking about what you're feeling. Be genuine with yourself. What are you feeling? Share it to whoever you choose to. Then they'll guide you. And let's always be courageous enough to go through that process. It's not a walk in the park. Sometimes you make 2 steps forward and 5 steps backwards. But always try, keep encouraging yourself. Just keep sharing your stories. Men go through so much. There is so much expectation from the society. But at times it's okay to fail. You need to embrace that as a man, I can also fail. I can also make mistakes. You don't need to be perfect. Families, friends, colleagues, they have so much expectation from us. There's so much pressure coming. We need to be like so-and-so. We need to live a life like so-and-so. We need to drive a car like so-and-so. There's so much. But as a man, it's okay not to have a car like it's so-and-so. It's okay not to live a life like so-and-so. It's okay not to be like so-and-so. So embrace the fact that it's okay not to be okay, and it's also okay to fail as a man. But the most important thing is you picking yourself up and finding your purpose, picking yourself up and redefining your life. Have a better and a deeper understanding of what you believe in. Go out there and make your life rich. Do things that make your life exciting. I think that's the best thing you can ever do to yourself as a man and to everybody out there.